We're about to get all the 411, all the knowledge from Josh Pate about Nico, the NIL. His show was tremendous last night. There's no guest that comes on that I try to impress more than Josh Pate. I will tell you that I'm working hard at Way to Wellness, our journey to healthy living, a planforme.com, a planforme.com, just so when I see Pate at SEC Media Days, he will say, man, Dunaway, you have shaped up. Way to go, man. You don't look round anymore. You've got a little bit more of a manly figure. Maybe he won't use those words, but you can get looking better with our friends at Way to Wellness, a planforme.com. No contracts, no sign-up fee, and that first consultation is absolutely free. A planforme.com.
You should probably know Pate's now engaged. He is. He's a promised man.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I think Pate knows by now Dunaway's always this awkward.
Are you the kind of person who relies on the external motivation? Do you need doubters? Do you need me to tell you still got a lot of work to do?
Are you kidding me?
Do you
Yes.
need the wind in your sails?
No. Yeah, I am that. I need all the external motivation, and I look at scoreboards. I do all the bad stuff. All the external things bother me as well.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can do the doubt. There was a certain college football playoff head coach last year who I texted every game day and told that he was terrible, his team was hopeless, and he was going to lose, and they ended up making the playoff. So it can work. I've already tested the theory. It can work.
Rhett Lashley?
That's exactly who it was. That is precisely who it was.
That's who I was going to guess, yeah.
I mean, it was at 1 of 12.
Yeah. I used to tell Dunaway when he was hosting the Nick Saban show, I was like, if that man knew how much you were affected by external factors, even as somebody as small as the
he wasn't even
television
associated with the program. I can't have this guy around.
Yeah, well, he eventually did. It was after the Texas loss. He was on the show in August. I'd bragged about having my handicap finally down to 9.8 in the August show. And then I was on the coaches show after they lost to Texas. And in the commercial break, I was like, ever since I bragged to you about the 9.8, I've shot in the 90s every time. What do you think's wrong? And he goes, it's your mind. He goes, you hit a bad shot on hole 1 or 2, and you're thinking, well, today's not going to be a 79, is it? And I was like, that's exactly what's happening. He goes, he said some things to me I can't say on the air here, but he basically was coaching me up that the external factors aren't good. Roy's got a little bit of that. McElroy does, doesn't he, Pate?
I got worried yesterday when he was walking off 17. He had that look where he looked back at the scoreboard, and I screenshot it, past tense a screenshot, and I was worried that was going to end up being his iconic external factor, like doomsday photo.
I love that. It. Past tense.
All right, let's talk about what happened over the weekend. And you said on your show that this is nothing new for the Iamaleava family, that even going back to pre-Ohio State game last year, they were wanting a new NIL contract, and it finally came to a head this weekend.
Yeah, so he's not the only one. There were many, many different, you can call them players. I would call them representatives of players because it's normally not the player himself, but they looked at a situation that's really jacked up. They took advantage of a jacked up situation, and, the way it was explained to me, Brownie, it's just egregious, but like this is the way it is. They looked at their current deal in hand, and then they looked at the fact that they were in the playoff. This is not just Nico's folks. Let me stress that. And they said, well, we kind of look at it as we were getting paid X amount of money for a season. But now that we're in the postseason, don't we deserve more? Wow. And then there's no one standing around to say, no, you can't do that. No, that's against the rules. It's just everything goes. You get to do whatever you want to. It's like the purge NIL style. So they exercised their right to go and ask for more money. Now, here's the part you don't know. Would anyone have actually held out of a playoff game? That's obviously the leverage you're relying on. It's unspoken in the room, but if we're in the playoffs at Pate State and Lance is my starting quarterback and he comes to me before game week and says, I need more money, obviously what he wants me to think is, oh, I need more money and I'm supposed to fill in the blank. But it didn't happen that way this past cycle. But it does go to show you that if you're already on that kind of slippery slope, if you're already in the first few cycles of this whole new world, in a world where people are thinking, if we make the playoff, we can use that as leverage to get more money, and then we'll do it again after spring, obviously that's untenable. And there's still this this vocal but vast minority over in the corner saying, no, this is the system working exactly as it's supposed to. This is the way free markets work. Well, piss on that when it comes to college football then, because that's not how college football is supposed to work. That's not how it's supposed to operate. And I've just so radically shifted lately in talking about this, and I'm a lot more unapologetic about it. And I just outright admit, my motivation is not the best interest of any one football player or athlete. My motivation is what is the best interest of college sports overall, long term. So I'm rooting for whatever is in the best interest of college sports, and whatever it is, this is not it.
So Nico's old enough to fight for our country, Pate. So I think he is old enough to bear some of the responsibility. I do feel bad for some of these kids because I think the dad, the uncle, the agent, all these guys are getting involved and telling them what they need to do. I don't know anything about Nico. So like behind the scenes, I don't know how much you've heard, how big of a character guy he is. Is he a guy his teammates like? But even outside of that, I know they went to a playoff this year, but he averaged 200 yards passing per game, which is a small number. He's got 6'6" size. You can't coach that. He's got a lot of upside, but how good of a quarterback are they losing? And do you know anything personally about Nico, like behind the scenes? Is he a good team guy? I know that sounds like a weird question to ask based on the fact that he's no longer there in April, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I want to go in order of what you said there. You're right. He's a legal adult, and so it's neither of the two extremes. The two extremes are totally blame the kid, and the other extreme is, well, it's not his fault. He didn't know any better. It's neither of those. It's obviously somewhere in between. The tact that I've taken is it just kind of sucks that you're put in this position where you're making these decisions that you're so ill-informed to make. You're 19, whatever years old. If you were 38 years old and you had full hindsight at your disposal, of course you'd tell your dad or your representative, get lost. I'm going to make this choice for myself. It's the first time around, and it'll be the only time around for anyone in this position. So yeah, it sucks, but you do have to manage your own affairs better than that, ill-equipped though you may be. What kind of quarterback is he? To me, is very, very much still incomplete. I think you and I both know when you pay seven figures for a quarterback, you're not paying for him to be a freshman All-American. You'd love for that to happen. Michigan would love for Bryce Underwood to be a freshman All-American. They're playing the long game with him. They're thinking 2026, 27, 28. And I think that was what Tennessee was doing with Nico. And, of course, after a situation goes south, everybody at the program that views itself as being scorned has a motivation to paint someone in a negative light. So you're going to hear some stories come out about him over the past 72 hours that paint a less than glowing image of him. I don't know that personally. I've never known him to be a bad character guy. I've never known him to be a bad locker room guy. I'd only heard good things about him up until this past week. So I'm going to dismiss that as anecdotal sour grapes because I don't know any better. But what I will say is, so how do you look at this? Like if you guys are general managers at various programs around the country, I got asked this by GM 2 days ago. Is the reason I'm presenting it this way. They said, we may, in the normal world, pursue him if he were just available. But we view him as radioactive right now. The whole situation is radioactive. We don't want to touch it. We think it would divide our locker room if we brought him in. We don't want to bring the dad or the representation in, the whole helicopter parent scenario. We just don't want anything to do with that, which is why I look at it, and I think the best thing that could happen for him right now is if those who were representing him took the arrows publicly and stepped up and said, it's on us. We messed this up. We're the bad guy. He didn't really have anything to do with it. He trusted us, and we misrepresented him. Because at least that gives him a fighting chance to restore his image. And at least that gives him a fighting chance to go play somewhere else and not be viewed the same way that like a heel pro wrestler is viewed. Because right now, that's almost the way it feels like he'd be treated no matter where he landed.
Yeah. Nico old enough to fight for our country and also old enough to accept deals from our enemy to fight against us if he chose to do so. I agree with you. I think he, at this point, would be one of the most hated guys in college football, that fans would cheer against him because of this. Am I wrong about that? He is the heel of college football, as you say.
Yeah, he's the face of something that a lot of people have been turned off by. That's what he is. And so you're not going to change that by just going and committing somewhere and working hard and keeping your mouth shut. because the die is already cast. And that's why, like, I'm looking around at the people who are probably mostly responsible for this mess becoming what it is to begin with. Your image, frankly, doesn't matter right now because you're not the player. So you can afford to be the bad guy. You can afford to step out in front and take the arrow, so to speak. I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if anyone around him has the foresight to do that, but they ought to do that because there is nothing left that could enhance his value if status quo remains the same. I don't even know if he goes and succeeds somewhere else, if he ever becomes a feel-good story. And by the way, guys, that's if he has everything together from the perspective of playing the position. There was still a lot to be desired about his on-field play. Even if he was at Tennessee this year, there was still a lot of question mark around him. So I can't help anytime this kind of stuff happens, I can't help but fast forward 20 years and ask myself, what is this person thinking about the way his career panned out and how many different roads he would have liked to have gone down? We all play that game in our lives. It's just most of us weren't in position to generate generational wealth off our athletic ability at age 19.
Josh Pate hosts Josh Pate's College Football Show every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. You can see it on his YouTube channel. Go follow him on social media at Josh Pate CFB, at Josh Pate CFB. He's on the Shannara hotline, the Alexander Shannara trial attorneys hotline. In the Josh Pate Football Show opinion, Dan Lanning's participation in this story is what?
That I've heard rumors of. I have not reached out to confirm that, but I think either Lanning or someone associated with Oregon sort of sent up the flare here. And if that's true, and I don't know that it is, but if it is true, I appreciate it. And if it is true, it reflects a lot of the sentiment I've gotten from being out on the road all spring. I hadn't gone to Oregon this spring, but I've gone to over a dozen major programs this spring. And that has sort of been the sentiment from a lot of staffers, specifically head coaches, of looking around and saying, yeah, we want to compete. And yeah, we may hate these dudes on the field of play, but it is past time to work together to regulate this ourselves if no one else is going to step in and regulate this. Because really, aside from a few rogue exceptions to the rule, most of the coaches want the guardrails. Most of the coaches actually don't like it being the way it is. And half of them even participate in it knowing, well, I've either got to get with the program as it is right now or get drowned by it. But all things equal, they'd love to rein it in. And then the follow-up question, I won't even make anyone in there waste their breath to ask it, is, well, aren't they somewhat culpable for us even going down this road to begin with? Sure, I don't know anyone in the room that's totally blameless on it. If Lanning did what they're saying he did, and he sort of tipped off everyone that Nico was sniffing around, or Nico's representatives were sniffing around, good for Dan Lanning, because I can tell you that's not the only program, if it happened, that Nico's folks had engaged behind the scenes, shall we say, in the last few weeks.
Okay, so everybody believes the SEC is a non-factor when we're talking about destination. I spoke to somebody this morning, and they are well-versed in this space. They said they talked to somebody at CAA, and they said if Nico was our client and he wanted to go in conference, we would sue to file an injunction, and we would see where this thing goes. Do you think ultimately something like this happens? Is there any chance, in your opinion, that he could go to one of 15 other institutions in the SEC?
Yes, I do think so. Having no specific knowledge of it, yeah, I think so. What you just said, extrapolate it out. That's my view on any rule right now. I assume no rules are enforceable. I just assume that there are some people haven't challenged legally yet. So if we were to wake up this morning and randomly he's gone to Ole Miss or A&M, I'm just throwing out names there. Initially, we would say, well, that makes no sense. He's not allowed to go there. But then we would think, is he not allowed to go there because a piece of paper says it, or is he not allowed to go there because of an actual rule that's enforceable? But then the follow-up, Lance, could be this: what if he transfers to an SEC program and everyone says, ooh, he's not eligible to play this year, and they say, yeah, we know. He probably needs a year to develop behind our guy anyway. Kind of the way Dante Moore did last year. He starts for UCLA one year, then he goes to Oregon, and you don't see him at all last year because he needed a year to develop, and now he's going to start for Oregon this year. I could see that playing out. But, yeah, I agree with you, man. If I ran an agency, I'm not looking out for the best interest of college athletics at that point. I'm just looking out for the best interest of a client. If I want him to land in the conference, I'll land him in the conference, and then I'll fight it legally.
Can you afford to pay this guy to back somebody up, though?
Well, they paid him $2 million to be a redshirt 1 year.
Yeah, I know, but I guess. But I think Tennessee thought that was the future. But I guess if you're going to get 1 year out of him, I don't know.
Well, how much do you trust your evaluation of him? How much do you actually have to pay him? For all we know, the market is $800,000 for him right now. I mean, I know what they were chasing. I know the figure they were chasing, but you may want to go out on the street corner and make $4 million today. I know your worth on the street. It's decent, but it's not $4 million. And so maybe that's what he commands right now.
If you could write this headline, where would be the most controversial spot for him to end up? Georgia, Alabama.
I think so. It wouldn't be controversial for him to land at North Carolina. It would just be an eyebrow raiser because it would be the whole Belichick thing. I think what you just said would be the most controversial. Well, I'll tell you one thing that would be controversial is if it were Oregon, but Oregon doesn't need him. That would be if Lanning sent up the players to piss everyone off and then said, and we'll take him anyway. Yeah, that'd be controversial. But I think what you said would be the most controversial if he landed at an SEC program, because the minute we saw that headline, we would know. Like if he went to Florida or if he went to Alabama or Georgia, we would know immediately someone thinks they can circumvent this rule. And now that's what the rest of June and July and August is going to be filled with headlines of.
Dan Lanning baiting the trap and then harvesting the prey. That would be unbelievable. There are people that still believe that this House resolution, when it's passed, will solve all these problems. How naive is that?
If you think that any move is going to solve all of college football's problems, I think in general that's naive. I've shifted my feel so radically on this. I've shifted my opinion, my personal preference so radically on this over the last couple of years because I'm the guy who forever banged the drum. I don't want federal intervention in college athletics. Keep Congress as far away from college athletics as possible. But the more I've looked at all the available options, the more I think that's the best one. Now, I'm in the minority on that. I acknowledge that. Most people in our business, they don't think that. They think you just need to make them employees and then you collectively bargain and that's the route you go down. I personally am not willing to accept the collateral damage that does to the rest of college athletics. That's just me. That's the way I feel about it. And so I don't know if you guys noticed Dellinger's story last night on Yahoo Sports. It was kind of buried under all the noise about Nico in Tennessee, but he said bipartisan. They're probably as close to getting a deal right now, a law, as they've ever been, and it would give limited antitrust exemption to be able to enforce the House settlement if it is codified, and it would also include not classifying athletes as employees. And here's the thing. Dunaway, I don't know if you've noticed this. No players are complaining about the current state of college athletics.
No.
It's all adults claiming to represent the players. The players about to make a ton of money no matter what. Like, they got it good no matter what. What's in the best interest of college, not just football, college athletics overall? I think that's the way. And I never would have said that a year and a half, 2 years ago.
But hell, Josh, the NBA, I mean, there are guys who are going to be late first round guys who are coming back to college because they can make more money. I'm sure the NFL guys are sitting there going, man, if we didn't have this NFLPA, if we had this college set up, I could be making more money than I'm making right now. It's insanity. These kids in college have no rules compared to what the NFL and the NBA kids have.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing. We've talked about this on the show before, but now that it's getting closer to reality, I'll tell you behind the scenes what a lot of programs are hoping exists, and that is in the revenue sharing system. If I'm at Alabama and I'm a freshman, the system in a perfect world would be set up to where I'm guaranteed more if I stay here as a sophomore, and then more as a junior and more as a senior. It's just an elevated earning system that incentivizes me to stay in Tuscaloosa. It doesn't prohibit me from leaving. You don't outlaw the portal because that'll always be illegal. You can't restrict movement. What you can do is heavily incentivize through your new structure of revenue sharing guys staying put. And you can work language in there of what happens if someone's head coach leaves. You can do all that. No one's against that. But I just think it would greatly cut down on the roster churn if guys were merely guaranteed, even for the 52nd guy on the roster, there is good six-figure earning potential for me here if I just stay here. Even if I'm not starting, if I'm on the roster, if I stay here, I'm going to earn.
Yeah, NBA, the NBA has that though, Brownie. They have you can get more money by staying with your team instead of going with the free agent.
But the other side of that too, Pate, is if there is some sort of financial compensation on the other side, so whoever lands Nico owes Tennessee whatever's in that contract, you'll slow tampering down because I better want him if I got him in the portal because I'm going to pay for him.
Oh, I'm all for that. I'm really all for the reciprocal, basically player tariffs is what we're talking about. But
That's right.
I'm all for the reciprocal payment, especially to the G5 and FCS level. Because what happens to those guys is the most jacked up.
Correct.
They do their job. They evaluate and recruit properly, and then they work their tail off to develop a guy for 2 years. And then after spring, Ohio State has a need, and so they just come and pluck him to maybe not even start for him, but just to exist on their two deep. And then come December, that staff still gets judged off their win-loss record, even though they're 5-7 because they did such a good job. All their starters were in demand, and they couldn't do anything to hold on to them.
All right, here's Josh Pate. Josh Pate's college football show is excellent. You guys love it. Continue to give him thumbs up. Make sure you set your alerts. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. You can find the links to do all of that at Josh Pate CFB, at Josh Pate CFB, or just go on YouTube and search the Josh Pate College Football Show. Always a fun time talking with you. Again, congratulations on the upcoming nuptials. It will not be a fall wedding, we know, but we hope it will be soon.
Yeah, that's at least one win I could give you this morning. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
Pate, real quick, the documentary Joplin, Missouri on Netflix, the tornado documentary, is it good?
All right, you should have asked me this 10 minutes ago.
Sorry.
Everyone, I'm irate
Because I
about
started it. I watched like the
Everyone-
first 3 minutes, and I couldn't decide whether or not I wanted to devote that kind of time to it.
Everyone in the storm chasing community loves it. I don't like it at all. I think it's very sensationalized. And the thing about an EF5 tornado is you don't have to sensationalize that. You can just tell the story of it. I don't need some chick with an eyebrow ring telling me she found herself in the eye of a tornado. Because I kid you not, that is something that is said in this documentary. It was still for a second. And we looked up and we realized we were in the eye. This is not Hurricane Heupel, people. It's a tornado. There is no calm eye of a tornado. So that's my review. 1 star at best.
1 star.
I'm glad I shut it down.
Do not watch.
Hey, by the way, I'm available to actually do the nuptials. What state are you going to do it? And I'll make sure I'm available. Georgia, Tennessee?
Are you even legally allowed in Biloxi, Mississippi after that incident in 97 at the Beau Rivage?
Oh, if you're doing it in Mississippi, then no, I can't.
Out.
I am. I can't. I'm not allowed back at the casino. Yeah.
All right, Pate, thank you very much. Always good talking to you, buddy.
See you guys.
All right, Josh Pate with us on the Alexander Shinora Trial Attorney Hotline. Josh Pate CFB on social media, Josh Pate CFB.